G'day, welcome back. It's Mike from AgencySavvy.com. And in this module of AdWords Fundamentals, we're going to cover conversion tracking. Super, super important. Please don't skip this. Yes, there's a little bit of code involved here, but I'm going to show you how to cope with that. But very, very important. Let me tell you a quick story. I did an audit earlier this week with a man who shall remain nameless in South Africa, running a very, very successful business. He's running the AdWords account in his own business now because he's had a couple of agencies have a crack at it. I think he mentioned, well, I better not mention names, but big agencies, famous advertising agencies that you would have heard of. And they did a worse job than he did, so he took it back over and he was running it better than they were. And when I had a look inside the account a few days ago, I saw that nothing was being tracked. No conversions were being tracked. Now, a conversion is just the measure of success. How do we know when this thing's working? How do we know when people are doing what we want them to do? And I'll give you a couple of examples of that in a second. But he had no conversion tracking set up. So he had no way of knowing, and he's spending maybe, I don't know, 15 grand a month or so, and has been doing that for quite a while. No way of knowing which keywords are good or bad, which ads are good or bad, which campaigns are good or bad. No way of knowing which clicks were leading to people doing what he wants on the website versus those that weren't, and therefore no way of optimizing. Now, the reason I tell you that whole story is not to pick on him, but because he said something to me on that phone call that I couldn't believe. He said, and all this time I've been doing this with all these other agencies that have had a crack at this, you're the first person to ever talk to me about conversion tracking, which utterly blew me away. That these big agencies that have been charging him money to run this AdWords account didn't even have the conversation with him about conversion tracking. So by the end of this module, I want you to be in the top probably 20% of advertisers, because you're going to have these conversations with your clients and make sure that stuff is being tracked. You cannot improve an AdWords account where you don't have some kind of conversion tracking. And again, a conversion is just getting people to do what we want them to do. There's four main types of conversion. It's getting people to do stuff on our website. Apps, phone calls, and importing conversions from another system are way beyond the scope of this particular course. So I'm just going to focus on the website stuff. And generally, when we're talking about getting people to do stuff on our website, if you're a retailer, it's getting people to buy. Well, thank you, Mike. Well done. Thanks for that. So tracking how many people made it to the receipt page at the end of your shopping cart. That's going to be the thing that we track as a conversion. If you're a lead gen site, then it's how many people filled out that form for the free consultation or whatever it is that you offer. Now, there are other things you could track on there, like phone calls, how many people called us, how many people clicked on the link to the PDF spec sheet that we've got all over our site. How many people clicked the button to disappear off to our Facebook page, or how many people engaged with us in the live chat or sent us a Facebook message with our brand new shiny chatbot. There's all sorts of things that you could track. I'm going to assume for now that the main thing that you're going to track is people reaching a particular page on your website. So again, for lead gen, that's typically going to be the thank you page that people see once they've filled out that form. And for e-com sites, that's generally going to be the receipt page that somebody sees after they've paid you money and gone successfully through your shopping cart. There are a couple of things here. So once you go in, you'll find the conversions in your AdWords account and you click on the website option. These are the options that you have to fill out. So let's quickly walk through those. You need to give your conversion a name. Again, something relatively short. You don't need to use all 100 characters here, but something that's going to make sense to you and anybody else that might be looking inside the account. You get to give it a category. That's not super important. You're probably going to choose lead or sale. There's a list of about 5 in there. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect anything. It's just for your reference. Value, I think, is super important. But for now, if you're a lead gen site, use the first option, use the same value for each conversion, and just put a number in there. It doesn't really matter what the number is as long as you don't use 0. So you can put 1, you can say each lead is worth 1 point to me, or each lead is worth 100 points to me. It really doesn't matter. Where this comes into its own is where you have many different types of conversion. Now, you may do that with your very first AdWords account, but I'm going to suggest for now, you just probably stick with the one main conversion, in which case it doesn't really matter what you do. If you're an e-com business and you don't know code, then this is the point where you get somebody else involved. Because if you're an e-com business, you're going to want the second option here of using different values for each conversion. What you want, if you're an e-com business, is you want to pass the total sale value back into AdWords. Because if you just made a sale from a click for $500, and then the next click leads to a sale, but it's only $50, you want to know that. You want to know which clicks are leading to the $500 sales and which clicks are leading to the $50 sales and which clicks obviously are leading to no sales, so that you can then push your budget around, optimize your AdWords account, get rid of some keywords, bid more for other keywords, do all the stuff that we'll talk about in a later module around optimization. But those values are super, super, super important to you. So if this is all getting a bit confusing at this point, please don't give up and run away and just not set up conversion tracking. Just get somebody else involved. Again, give me a shout at agencysavvy.com if you want us to do this for you, but I'm sure you can find somebody competent on upwork.com or even Fiverr. You'll probably find someone that can do this for you. The count, this, as Google says here, counts how many conversions to count for each click. And generally speaking, general rule of thumb here, for e-com sites, use every. For lead gen sites, use 1. That's all you need to know for now. And all the rest of it, you can leave alone for now. Conversion windows and attribution models are kind of beyond the scope of this course. I do go into that stuff in a great amount more detail in the various courses at agencysavvy.com. If you would like to join us there, I'd love to see you there. If you want to dig into things like data-driven attribution and macro versus micro conversions, then we can talk about that another time. Once you've done all that, you've filled all this out, then Google is going to give you a chunk of code. And at this point, you cut and paste all of that code, save it into a text file and send it to your web dev, unless you know code. If you know code, lovely. You need to go now put that little piece of code onto your thank you page or onto your receipt page. And hopefully you're using a tool like Google Tag Manager, which will make that incredibly easy to do. Again, if I'm starting to speak gobbledygook to you at this point, you don't need to worry about it. You just need to go and tell whoever looks after your website, Mike said we need to use Google Tag Manager. Apparently it makes life much, much easier and enables me to put all sorts of different code on there. My Facebook pixel, my Google tracking code, my remarketing code. Helps me do all of this stuff down the track. I'm going to want to track phone numbers. It's going to make tracking phone numbers really easy. Put Google Tag Manager on our site, please. Lovely. And you only need to do that once. And then that way you get this lovely little console in Tag Manager, and it enables you to put any code that you want on any page that you want, all within the one place. So you only have to bother your web dev once, get them to install Tag Manager. After that, adding code gets much, much easier. But please don't skip over conversion tracking, please. It's the only way to improve your AdWords account. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next module. Talk about optimizing your Google AdWords account. I'll see you there.